Welcome back. I had relaxed few hours, so I only sleep 4 hours tonight because I was looking my airline sim game is soon 8 p.m. So I like to continue reading about my aircrafts. I need the Boeing 727. So I made all these papers. I have it here. So I need a minute. I need a minute to go to my bed. I will read this, then make a video in my language Danish. So I hope I can get the Microsoft Flight Simulator soon. Then you can find this old airliners in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. You can find it as free software or payware.
Boeing 727. The Boeing 727 is an American narrow-body airliner that was developed and produced by Boeing Commercial Airplanes. After the heavier 707 quadjet was introduced in 1958, Boeing addressed the demand for shorter flight lengths from smaller airports. On the 5th of December, 1960, the 727 was launched with 40 orders each from United Airlines and Eastern Airlines. The first 727-100 rolled out on the 27th of November, 1962, first flew on the 9th of February, 1963, and entered service with Eastern on the 1st of February, 1964. The only Tri-J aircraft to be produced by Boeing, the 727 is powered by Pratt & Whitney JT8D low-bypass turbofans below a T-tail, one on each side of the rear fuselage and a center one fed through an S-duct. It shares its 6 abreast upper fuselage cross-section and cockpit with the 707 that was also later used on the 737. The 133-foot-long, 41 m, 727-100 typically carries 106 passengers in two classes over 2,250 nautical miles, mi, 4,170 kilometers, 2,590 mi, or 129 in a single class. Launched in 1965. The stretched 727-200 flew in July 1967 and entered service with Northeast Airlines that December. The 20 feet, 6.1 m, longer variant typically carries 134 passengers in two classes over 2,515 mi, 4,720 kilometers. 2,930 mi, or 155 in a single class. A freighter and a quick-change convertible version were also offered. The 727 was used for domestic flights and on international flights within its range. Airport noise regulations have led to hush kit installations. Its last commercial passenger flight was in January 2019. It was succeeded by the 757 and larger variants of the 737. There have been 353 incidents involving the Boeing 727. Production ended in September 1984 with 1,832 having been built. Development, edit. The Boeing 727 design was a compromise among United Airlines, American Airlines, and Eastern Airlines. Each of the three had developed requirements for a jet airliner to serve smaller cities with shorter runways and fewer passengers. United Airlines requested a 4-engine aircraft for its flights to high-altitude airports, especially its hub at Stapleton International Airport in Denver, Colorado. American Airlines, which was operating the 4-engined Boeing 707 and Boeing 720, requested a twin-engined aircraft for efficiency. Eastern Airlines wanted a third engine for its over-water flights to the Caribbean, since at that time twin-engine commercial flights were limited by regulations to routes with 60-minute maximum flying time to an airport, see TOPS. Eventually, the three airlines agreed on a tri-J design for the new aircraft. In 1959, Lord Douglas, chairman of British European Airways, B, suggested that Boeing and de Havilland Aircraft Company, later Hawker Siddeley, work together on their tri-J designs, the 727 and D.H.121 Trident, respectively. The two designs had a similar layout, the 727 being slightly larger. At that time Boeing intended to use three Allison R963 turbofan engines, license-built versions of the Rolls-Royce RB163 used by the Trident. Boeing and de Havilland each sent engineers to the other company's locations to evaluate each other's designs, but Boeing eventually decided against the joint venture. De Havilland had wanted Boeing to license-build the D.H.121, while Boeing felt that the aircraft needed to be designed for the American market, with 6 abreast seating and the ability to use runways as short as 4,500 feet, 1,400 m. In 1960, Pratt & Whitney was looking for a customer for its new JT8D turbofan design study, based on its J52, JT8O, turbojet, while United and Eastern were interested in a Pratt & Whitney alternative to the RB163. Once Pratt & Whitney agreed to go ahead with development of the JT8D, Eddie Rickenbacker, chairman of the board of Eastern, told Boeing that the airline preferred the JT8D for its 727S. Boeing had not offered the JT8D, as it was about 1,000 pound, 450 kilograms, heavier than the RB163, though slightly more powerful. The RB163 was also further along in development than the JT8D. Boeing reluctantly agreed to offer the JT8D as an option on the 727, and it later became the sole power plant. With high-lift devices on its wing, the 727 could use shorter runways than most earlier jets, for example the 4,800 feet runway at Key West International Airport. Later 727 models were stretched to carry more passengers and replaced earlier jet airliners such as the Boeing 707 and Douglas DC-8, as well as aging propeller airliners such as the DC-4, DC-6, DC-7, and the Lockheed Constellations on short and medium-haul routes. For over a decade, more 727s were built per year than any other jet airliner. In 1984, production ended with 1,832 built and 1,831 delivered, the highest total for any jet airliner until the 737 surpassed it in the early 1990s. Design, edit. The airliner's middle engine, Engine 2, at the very rear of the fuselage gets air from an inlet ahead of the vertical fin through an S-shaped duct. This S-duct proved to be troublesome in that flow distortion in the duct induced a surge in the centerline engine on the takeoff of the first flight of the 727 to 100. This was fixed by the addition of several large vortex generators in the inside of the first bend of the duct. The 727 was designed for smaller airports, so independence from ground facilities was an important requirement. This led to one of the 727's most distinctive features, the built-in air stair that opens from the rear underbelly of the fuselage, which initially could be opened in flight. Hijacker D.B. Cooper used this hatch when he parachuted from the back of a 727, as it was flying over the Pacific Northwest. Boeing subsequently modified the design with the Cooper vane so that the air stair could not be lowered in flight. The design included an auxiliary power unit, APU, which allowed electrical and air conditioning systems to run independently of a ground-based power supply, and without having to start one of the main engines. An unusual design feature is that the APU is mounted in a hole in the keel beam web, in the main landing gear bay. The 727 is equipped with a retractable tail skid that is designed to protect the aircraft in the event of an over-rotation on takeoff. The 727's fuselage has an outer diameter of 148 inches, 3.8 m. This allows 6 abreast seating, 3 per side, and a single aisle when 18-inch, 46 centimeters, wide coach class seats are installed. An unusual feature of the fuselage is the 10-inch, 25 centimeters, difference between the lower lobe forward and aft of the wing, as the higher fuselage height of the center section was simply retained towards the rear. No wheel brakes were available as an option to reduce braking distance on landing, which provided reduction in braking distances of up to 150 m, 490 feet. The 727 proved to be such a reliable and versatile airliner that it came to form the core of many startup airlines fleets. The 727 was successful with airlines worldwide partly because it could use smaller runways while still flying medium-range routes. This allowed airlines to carry passengers from cities with large populations, but smaller airports to worldwide tourist destinations. One of the features that gave the 727 its ability to land on shorter runways was its clean wing design. With no wing-mounted engines, leading-edge devices, Kruger, or hinged, flaps on the inner wing and extendable leading-edge slats out to the wingtip, and trailing-edge lift enhancement equipment, triple-slotted, Fowler flaps, could be used on the entire wing. Together, these high-lift devices produced a maximum wing lift coefficient of 3.0, based on the flap retracted wing area. The 727 was stable at very low speeds compared to other early jets, but some domestic carriers learned after review of various accidents that the 40-degree flap setting could result in a higher than desired sink rate or a stall on final approach. These carriers' pilots' operation handbooks disallowed using more than 30 degrees of flaps on the 727, even going so far as installing plates on the flap lever slot to prevent selection of more than 30 degrees of flaps. Noise, edit. The 727 is one of the noisiest commercial jetliners, categorized as Stage 2 by the U.S. Noise Control Act of 1972, which mandated the gradual introduction of quieter Stage 3 aircraft. The 727's JT8D jet engines use older low-bypass turbofan technology, whereas Stage 3 aircraft use the more efficient and quieter high-bypass turbofan design. When the Stage 3 requirement was being proposed, Boeing engineers analyzed the possibility of incorporating quieter engines on the 727. They determined that the JT8D-200 engine could be used on the two side-mounted pylons. The JT8D-200 engines are much quieter than the original JT8D-1-17 variant engines that power the 727, as well as more fuel efficient due to the higher bypass ratio, but the structural changes to fit the larger diameter engine, 49.2 inches, 125 centimeters, fan diameter in the JT8D-200 compared to 39.9 inches, 101 centimeters, in the JT8D1 through -17, into the fuselage at the number 2 engine location were prohibitive. Current regulations require that a 727, or any other Stage 2 noise jetliner in commercial service must be retrofitted with a hush kit to reduce engine noise to Stage 3 levels to continue to fly in U.S. airspace. These regulations have been in effect since the 31st of December, 1999. One such hush kit is offered by FedEx, and has been purchased by over 60 customers. Aftermarket winglet kits, originally developed by Valsan Partners and later marketed by Quiet Wing Corporation, have been installed on many 727s to reduce noise at lower speeds, as well as to reduce fuel consumption. In addition, Raisbeck Engineering developed packages to enable 727s to meet the Stage 3 noise requirements. These packages managed to get light and medium-weight 727s to meet Stage 3 with simple changes to the flap and slat schedules. For heavier-weight 727s, exhaust mixers must be added to meet Stage 3. American Airlines ordered and took delivery of 52 Raisbeck 727 Stage 3 systems. Other customers included TWA, Pan Am, Air Algérie, TAME, and many smaller airlines. Since the 1st of September, 2010, 727 jetliners, including those with a hush kit, are banned from some Australian airports because they are too loud. Operational history, edit. In addition to domestic flights of medium range, the 727 was popular with international passenger airlines. The range of flights it could cover, and the additional safety added by the third engine, meant that the 727 proved efficient for short to medium range international flights in areas around the world. The 727 also proved popular with cargo and charter airlines. FedEx Express introduced 727s in 1978. The 727s were the backbone of its fleet until the 2000s. FedEx began replacing them with Boeing 757s in 2007. Many cargo airlines worldwide employ the 727 as a workhorse, since, as it is being phased out of U.S. domestic service because of noise regulations, it becomes available to overseas users in areas where such noise regulations have not yet been instituted. Charter airlines Sun Country, Champion Air, and Ryan International Airlines all started with 727 aircraft. The 727 had some military uses, as well. Since the aft stair could be opened in flight, the Central Intelligence Agency used them to drop agents and supplies behind enemy lines in Vietnam. In early 1988, the Iraqi Air Force modified a Boeing 727 by fitting it with Thompson CSFT-MV-0180 pods for ESM and RAFI LTH pods with side-looking radar. Known as 4727, it was reportedly used as an Elend platform in the invasion of Kuwait in 1990, during which it was briefly locked on by a Kuwaiti Mirage F-1 on August 2, and the subsequent Iraqi monitoring of coalition forces during Desert Shield. The 727 has proven to be popular where the airline serves airports with gravel, or otherwise lightly improved, runways. The Canadian airline First Air, for example, previously used a 727-100C to serve the communities of Resolute Bay and Arctic Bay in Nunavut, whose Resolute Bay Airport and Forman-Isivik Airport both have gravel runways. The high-mounted engines greatly reduce the risk of foreign object damage. A military version, the Boeing C-22, was operated as a medium-range transport aircraft by the Air National Guard and National Guard Bureau to airlift personnel. A total of 3 C-22Bs were in use, all assigned to the 201st Airlift Squadron, District of Columbia Air National Guard. At the start of the 21st century, the 727 remained in service with a few large airlines. Faced with higher fuel costs, lower passenger volumes due to the post-9/11 economic climate, increasing restrictions on airport noise, and the extra expenses of maintaining older planes and paying flight engineers' salaries, most major airlines phased out their 727s. They were replaced by twin-engined aircraft, which are quieter and more fuel-efficient. Modern airliners also have a smaller flight deck crew of 2 pilots, while the 727 required 2 pilots and a flight engineer. Delta Airlines, the last major U.S. carrier to do so, retired its last 727 from scheduled service in April 2003. Northwest Airlines retired its last 727 from charter service in June 2003. Many airlines replaced their 727s with either the 737-800 or the Airbus A320. Both are close in size to the 727-200. As of July 2013, a total of 109 Boeing 727s were in commercial service with 34 airlines. 3 years later, the total had fallen to 64 airframes in service with 26 airlines. On the 2nd of March 2016, the first 727 produced, N7001U, which first flew on the 9th of February 1963, made a flight to a museum after extensive restoration. The 727-100 had carried about 3 million passengers during its years of service. Originally a prototype, it was later sold to United Airlines, which donated it to the Museum of Flight in Seattle in 1991. The jet was restored over 25 years by the museum and was ferried from Payne Field in Everett, Washington to Boeing Field in Seattle, where it was put on permanent display at the Aviation Pavilion. The Federal Aviation Administration granted the museum a special permit for the 15-minute flight. The museum's previous 727-223, tail number N874A, was donated to the National Airline History Museum in Kansas City and was planned to be flown to its new home once FAA ferry approval was granted. After a series of financial problems with the restoration, N874A was seized by Boeing Field for non-payment of storage fees in 2021 and subsequently broken up and scrapped. Iran Aseman Airlines, the last passenger airline operator, made the worldwide last scheduled 727 passenger flight on the 13th of January 2019 between Zahedan and Tehran. Variants, edit. Data from Boeing aircraft since 1916. The 2 series of 727 are the initial -100, originally only 2 figures as in -30, which was launched in 1960 and entered service in February 1964, and the -200 series, which was launched in 1965 and entered service in December 1967. 727-100, edit. The first 727-100, N7001U, flew on the 9th of February 1963. FAA type approval was awarded on the 24th of December of that year, with initial delivery to United Airlines on the 29th of October 1963, to allow pilot training to commence. The first 727 passenger service was flown by Eastern Airlines on the 1st of February 1964, between Miami, Washington, D.C., and Philadelphia. A total of 571 Boeing 727-00/100 series aircraft were delivered, 407-100s, 53-100 CS, and 111-100 QCs, the last in October 1972. 727-100 was retained by Boeing, bringing total production to 572. The -100 designation was assigned retroactively to distinguish the original short-body version. Actual aircraft followed a 727-00 pattern. Aircraft were delivered for United Airlines as 727-22, for American Airlines as 727-23, and so on, not -122, -123, etc., and these designations were retained even after the advent of the 727-200. 727-100C. Convertible passenger cargo version, additional freight door and strengthened floor and floor beams, 3 alternative fits. 94 mixed class passengers. 52 mixed class passengers and 4 cargo pallets, 22,700 pounds, 10,300 kilograms. 8 cargo pallets, 38,000 pounds, 17,000 kilograms. 727-100 QC. QC stands for Quick Change. This is similar to the convertible version with a roller bearing floor for palletized galley and seating and forward/ or cargo to allow much faster changeover time, 30 minutes. 727-100 QF. QF stands for Quiet Freighter. A cargo conversion for United Parcel Service. These were re-engined with Stage 3 compliant Rolls-Royce TAE turbofans. Boeing C-22A. A single 727-30 acquired from the Federal Aviation Administration. This aircraft was originally delivered to Lufthansa. It served mostly with United States Southern Command flying from Panama City / Howard Air Force Base. Boeing C-22B. 4 727-35 aircraft were acquired from National Airlines by the United States Air Force for transporting Air National Guard and National Guard personnel. 727-200, edit. A stretched version of the 727-100. The -200 is 20 feet, 6.1 m, longer, 153 feet 2 inches, 46.69 m, than the -100, 133 feet 2 inches, 40.59 m. A 10-foot, 3 m, fuselage section, plug, was added in front of the wings and another 10-foot fuselage section was added behind them. The wingspan and height remain the same on both the -100 and -200, 108 and 34 feet, 33 and 10 m, respectively. The original 727-200 had the same maximum gross weight as the 727-100, however, as the aircraft evolved, a series of higher gross weights and more powerful engines were introduced along with other improvements, and from line number 881, 727-200s are dubbed -200 Advanced. The aircraft gross weight eventually increased from 169,000 to 209,500 pounds. 76,700 to 95,000 kilograms, for the latest versions. The dorsal intake of the number 2 engine was also redesigned to be round in shape, rather than oval as it was on the -100 series. The first 727-200 flew on the 27th of July, 1967, and received FAA certification on the 30th of November, 1967. The first delivery was made on the 14th of December, 1967, to Northeast Airlines. A total of 310 727-200s were delivered before the -200 was replaced on the production line by the 727-200 advanced in 1972. 727-200C. A convertible passenger cargo version, only one was built. 727-200 advanced. The advanced version of the 727-200 was introduced in 19